السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله على إحسانه وشكر له على تفضله وامتنانه، ولا إله إلا الله تعظيما لشأنه، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله داعي إلى رضوانه وعلى آله وأصحابه وإخوانه. أما بعد. إخواني في الله, we are concluding with our lecture series this week inshallah regarding the signs of the Day of Judgment. We have reached minor sign number 57 from the signs of the Day of Judgment. The house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Kaabah, shall be destroyed. From the signs of the Day of Judgment is the destruction of the Kaabah. Ikhwani fillah, we said we're going to mention some unfortunate events that happened about 40 years ago. About 43 years ago, some very unfortunate incident happened in Makkah. And the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was desecrated and many people lost their lives in Makkah. The events of the 20th of November, the year 1979, the fast of Muharram, the year 1400 of the Hijri calendar, where the Kaabah was attacked and many Muslims lost their lives. What led to such an unfortunate event occurring? What is the fitna that until it reached the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Makkah? Ikhwani fillah, in Saudi Arabia in about 1960, the Islamic University of Medina was formed. And scholars came from all over the world to teach in this blessed university. So you had the Mufti of Saudi Arabia was the Chancellor of the Islamic University of Medina. Sheikh Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Sheikh from the family of Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahab. This is the Sheikh where the Saudis they follow the Muftis come from this lineage. Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab. So he was the Chancellor of this university. His Vice Chancellor is the next Mufti of Saudi Arabia, a very famous man called Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz rahimahullah. This man was a blind scholar. By his knowledge and his fame reached everywhere. All the lands of the Muslims, they know this Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz. He was the Vice Chancellor of the Islamic University of Medina. And scholars from all the world came to teach in this university. Scholars from Egypt, from Mauritania, Sheikh Muhammad Amin al-Shanqiti. Scholars from Pakistan, from India, from all the Muslim world. Umar Falata from West Africa. They came to teach in this blessed university of Islamic University of Medina. Sheikh, amongst them was this Sheikh Muhammad Nasruddin Albani, one of the greatest scholars of our time. When you read the hadiths, every time you hear this hadith has been authenticated by Sheikh Muhammad Nasruddin Albani. So he taught in the Islamic University for 4 years, from 1960 to 1964. And his contract ended. And it was not renewed. So he had to leave Saudi Arabia. Ikhwani fillah, if you're aware of the way Sheikh Albani was teaching his students, he was encouraging them. Do not be blind followers. Use your brain. Look at what the Quran says. Look at what the Sunnah says. What does the authentic Sunnah say? Follow the Dalil. Follow the Dalil. So he had a great effect on Muslim populations all over the world. Everyone knew, this hadith has been declared authentic by Sheikh Al-Albani. This hadith has been declared da'if by Sheikh Al-Albani. He had great respect amongst the Muslims and amongst even the scholars of Islam. Some of the students, ikhwani fillah, they took the methodology of the Sheikh, but they didn't take his wisdom. So after the Sheikh was expelled, they started forming a group amongst themselves. And they started commanding good and forbidding evil. And sometimes they will do such acts without even consulting the scholars. In the year 1965 of the Christian calendar, they saw some, what are these things they put clothes on? What are they called? No? The mannequins, yes. So they saw these mannequins near the Prophet's mosque in Medina, and they went and started destroying people's shops. And this created a great fitna, and a number of them were arrested at the time. We're talking about an historical event. The purpose we are talking about it, we shall learn the lessons so that we as Muslims do not fall in the same mistakes that were made by this youth. So they started destroying these things and they started being fierce in commanding good and forbidding evil. Amongst them was Sheikh Abdul Khaliq, one of the sheikhs of Kuwait. He was expelled. Amongst them were other students from the Islamic University of Medina. They were expelled from Saudi Arabia. Some of them were even removed their nationality. They were taken, the nationality of Saudi Arabia was taken from them. So when some of the students, they saw this, they said we have to be more organized in our effort of da'wah. So amongst them, 6 of them, they met. One was from the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, the group in Egypt that's known the Muslim Brotherhood, and 5 were from the Al-otabee, the group of Tabligh that have come from the Indian subcontinent. So these 6, they formed a group. And they called themselves Al-Jama'atu Salafiyya. They said, we are the Salafis. And they went to Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz rahimahullah, and they told him, Sheikh, we have formed this group for the purpose of da'wah. We want to call the villages, the qura, the places where out of town we want to teach the true message of Islam. So Sheikh Ibn Baz rahimahullah, he told them, you need someone to guide you. Who is the most knowledgeable amongst you? They said, there's this Palestinian brother, he's the most knowledgeable. So Sheikh Ibn Baz said, you are the leader of this group, go do this great work of da'wah, of commanding good and forbidding evil. So this group started da'wah, started calling people to the message of Islam, to the following the hadith of Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Then they had khilaf amongst themselves. They had a number of disagreements amongst themselves. The one member who was from the Muslim Brotherhood, he left the group. So there remained 5 people. Listen to how the story progresses until such a great fitna occurs in Makkah, a fitna that we have not seen the like of in our history. A very unfortunate event happened in the year 1400. Let us look at how these historical events, they carried on one by one. So these brothers, they were told, there is a good Sheikh, Abu Bakr al-Jazairi. He's going to be your Sheikh from now on. Listen to what Sheikh Abu Bakr al-Jazairi teaches you. So they followed the Sheikh and they started calling the people to da'wah, and they made a house. They rented a house in Medina. Every single scholar who comes to Medina has to be invited to that house to give lectures. They had a voice in society and they were respected in society. The leader of this group, Ikhwani Fillah, is a man called Juhayman ibn Muhammad ibn Sayf al-otabee. Hence this fitna that's going to occur is mentioned with his name, the fitna of Juhayman. After this lecture, go research more on this fitna of this man called Juhayman al-otabee. This man, his father, was amongst the people who revolted against King Abdul Aziz in the year 1929 in the Battle of Siballa. They are known as Ikhwan man ata' Allah. They revolted against the king, and the king fought them, and many of them were arrested. Amongst them was this man's father, Juhayman al-otabee, from the tribe of Utaybah. So he used to have that revolutionary mindset from an early age. He worked, Ikhwani Fillah, he studied until class 4. He studied until grade 4. He was not very good in writing. His handwriting was terrible. He was barely literate. He could not read. He was not a person who supposed to have leadership qualities. But this man was known with good attributes. He was generous, he was brave, he was very kind to his companions, and the people, they loved him a lot, Juhayman al-otabee. So the group started expanding in Saudi, in Medina more particularly. Every scholar comes to Medina has to descend or has to come to this house of these people that was known as, at the time, Al-Jama'atu Al-Salafiyya Al-Muhtasiba. This was their name, Al-Jama'atu Al-Salafiyya Al-Muhtasiba. Also they are known as Ahlul Hadith. Also they are known as Ikhwan. So they started continuing the da'wah. The group became bigger. They became more famous. They started having offices in every town in Saudi Arabia, in Makkah, in Riyadh, in Buraida, in Ahsa. Also outside Saudi Arabia, they started having offices in Kuwait and other countries. So the da'wah started spreading. This man, Juhayman al-otabee, he was working in the army, the Saudi army at the time. But he left the job of the army in 1973. So they used to sit with the scholars. More particularly, the scholars they used to love the most was Sheikh Muhammad Nasruddin al-Albani, Sheikh Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi'i al-Madkhali, the Sheikh who formed a great school in Yemen called Dammaj. You must have heard of this Sheikh. They had another Sheikh from Pakistan, Sheikh Badi'uddin Ibn Rashid al-Sindi. These were the three main scholars that were following. Also they followed Ibn Baz, Ibn Uthaymin, Abu Bakr al-Jazari. There were people listening to the scholars, this group. So they continued spreading their da'wah and they became a very large group, Ikhwani Fillah. Thereafter, Ikhwani Fillah, some of the scholars, they saw that this group was not upon the correct path. They saw that this group, they had an agenda, a political agenda. So they tried advising them, but these young men were not listening. Amongst them, all of them, taqriban, or 95% of them, were only 20s, in their 20s. Very few in their 30s, and even very fewer were in their 40s, Ikhwani Fillah. So they started spreading, and they started becoming fierce in the da'wah. They come to the mosque, and the mosque has a carpet, and they pray with their shoes. They say, we are following the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is a forgotten sunnah of Muslims praying with their shoes. We are going to pray with the shoes even in the mosque where there's a carpet. They said, this space here, the mihrab, is a bid'ah. The imam should come and start praying here in the first saf. So they were very fierce in these issues that some scholars agree and some scholars disagree upon. It's an issue of ijtihad. They said, as-salatu khayru min al-nawm. That is said in adhan al-fajr should be said in the first adhan and not the second adhan. So they had many issues of khilaf with the scholars. And they said from amongst the major issues they were indicating every time that we are the people of dalil. We do not follow any madhab. We do not know of any madhab. We are following the dalil. قال الله وقال رسول. This is an excellent thing to say. But as Ali ibn Abi Talib, he says, دعوة حق أريد بها الباطل. This is something good to say, but you have an evil agenda behind it. How can you say you're going to follow the Quran and the Sunnah, yet you do not have the sufficient knowledge of the Arabic language? How can you say you're going to follow the Quran and the Sunnah and you do not know usul al-fiqh? You do not know this is general statement, this is a specific statement, this is am, this is khas, this is mutlaq, this is muqayyad, this is dhahir, this is bayyin. You do not know the rules that the scholars have kept based on the verses. You do not know about the ijma' of the scholars. You do not know how 40 years people spend reading and studying the deen. You think you can just come today and go read the book and you've become a scholar. So this young man, the hamasa, the passion for the deen, it exceeded them. And they lost all wisdom, ikhwani fillah. The sheikhs, they tried advising them. Ikhwan, these things you're doing are not correct. Follow the scholars. Listen to the scholars. This is not the correct path. You're not doing correct. But they're not listening. Amongst them was a man called Faisal al-Yami. Faisal al-Yami was a student in the Islamic University of Medina. As a person who had knowledge, person who had ilm. But he started meeting with groups from Egypt, from the Jama'atul Jihad and the Jama'atul Takfir al-Hijrah. Groups of extremist Egyptians were coming to Medina and spreading the extremism and this ghulu that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We as an ummah of Islam, we are an ummah of moderation. We are never extreme, ikhwani fillah. And the most thing that we keep away, ikhwani fillah, I've said many times and I repeat very times, be very careful with two issues. With the issue of blatantly calling your fellow Muslims kafir and the issue of blood. Whenever you're called to any issue where you shall spill blood or dishonor people, keep away from such things. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us. So these brothers, they started saying, yes, we are following the dalil. And they started losing respect for the scholars. Amongst them, Faisal al-Yami. Faisal al-Yami, he mixes with these Egyptians and he starts getting a takfiri mentality, declaring people kafir. He even lives with his entire family from the city of Medina. He lives, study at the Islamic University, and he goes, he sits outside of Medina. وَالْمَدِينَةُ خَيْرٌ لَهُمْ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. Prophet ﷺ says, Medina is best for them if only they knew. So he lives Medina. Juhayman Al-otabee, he does not want to be declared to be amongst the Khawarij. He doesn't want his group to be known as the extremist sect of the Khawarij. So he says, this young man has gone against my rule. I am the leader. Let me call the great scholar Sheikh Muhammad Nasiruddin Al-Albani to debate with him, to advise him. Sheikh Al-Albani came, he advised Faisal Al-Yami and his group, and they repented from that fikr of takfiri initially. They left that fikra and it was recorded in the cassette. So, times passed, 1976 came, 1977, 1978. 1978, information reached the Saudi government that these young men were gathering weapons. They were gathering weapons and they were seeking weapons. Now the Saudi government has allowed you for all these times to spread your da'wah without any issues. Now you're seeking weapons. You're seeking to cause fitnah. You're seeking to spill blood. So some of them had to be arrested. When Juhayman Al-otabee heard that his colleagues have been arrested, amongst them the Sheikh Badi'uddin Ibn Rashid Al-Sindi, amongst them other scholars and other students of knowledge, he ran away and hid. He hid completely. He was not seen for 2 years. From 1977 to 1979, he was not seen until the fitna of Makkah occurred in 1979. So these people, they were interrogated. Some of them were expelled from the country. Amongst the people who were expelled around this time, 1978 or so, is the great Sheikh from Yemen, Sheikh Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi al-Madkhali. Because he was known to these students, he was known to these young men, and he used to advise them initially and show them correct path. But when he saw that these people had made a mistake, he rebuked them, he refuted them, and warned against them severely. He was expelled from Saudi Arabia. Sheikh Badi'uddin Ibn Rashid Al-Sindi also started rebuking them, refuting them. Also he was expelled from Saudi. So these young men were left with no scholars. Other of the sheikhs, Sheikh Abu Bakr Al-Jazairi, Sheikh Hamad Al-Ansari, Sheikh Umar Falata, Atiyah Salim, all the great scholars of the time, they started sitting with these young men, telling them, no, what you guys are doing is wrong. The way you're doing is not the way of the scholars. Leave these extremist views that you have. Be more respectful to the scholars. Hold fast to the scholars. You're going to get into big problems and cause a lot of problems for the Muslims. But they did not listen. A sheikh comes to the mosque and starts giving da'wah and giving advice to the Muslims. One of the young men over there starts asking the sheikh, what is the evidence? Give us the dalil. What is the evidence? Wait, I finish my lecture, I give you the evidence. No. You're bringing blind madhab over here. We're not going to follow blind madhab. We're going to follow dalil. What is the dalil? He says, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The dalil is this hadith. He says, is that hadith authentic? So they reached a form of ignorance. And whoever was joining the group, they're not taught about Arabic grammar. They're not taught about the Quran. They're not taught about anything. They're told the first knowledge that you should take is ilm al-rijal. You should know how to authenticate a hadith. You should know jarh wa ta'dil. You should know this fulan da'if, fulan thiqah. Salam. Is this the way of the scholars taking knowledge? The scholars, they've said, if you want to take knowledge, ابدأ بصغير العلم قبل الكبير. Start with the small knowledge before the big knowledge. They say if you eat the food of grown-ups, it will harm you. Always start slowly from the basics, then the intermediate, then the advanced. There's no way you can go to big books like Al-Muhalla of Ibn Hazm and start taking fatwa straight from Ibn Hazm. There's no way you can take the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and start becoming a mufti. There are rules, there are principles, there are foundations that have been kept by the scholars. All of our history, usul al-fiqh. Where is your usul al-fiqh? Where is your qawaid al-fiqhiyah? Where is your balagha? Where is your nahwi? Where is your ilm al-bayan, ilm al-badi'? Where is all these knowledges? Where is ilm al-hadith, mustalah hadith? You don't know everything, then you want to start giving fatwas. You want to take a position in religion. So these young men, they did not listen to anything. Juhayman Al-otabee, the leader of the group at the time, had a companion of his who was called Muhammad ibn Abdullah Al-Qahtani. Muhammad ibn Abdullah Al-Qahtani. As you know, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his name is Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib ibn Hashim ibn Hanaf ibn Qusaym ibn Kilab ibn Murrah ibn Ka'b ila akhiri. So they said this man has the same name as Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad ibn Abdullah. The hadith, they tell us, before the end of the day is, we're going to take it tomorrow inshallah, a man who will come, called the Mahdi, will revive this ummah. This man, his name is Muhammad ibn Abdullah, from the family of Hassan ibn Abi Talib. So this man, Al-Mahdi, has been mentioned in the authentic hadiths. Juhayman Al-otabee, whose sister, he has married the sister of this man, Muhammad Abdullah Al-Qahtani, starts claiming that this is Muhammad Abdullah Al-Qahtani, a former student also of the Islamic University, that this man is the Mahdi mentioned in the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That this man is the one who will come to revive this deen. This is the man who will come and save us. This is the Mahdi that you are waiting for. His name is the same name, but he's not from Quraysh. How do you solve this problem? He started making a fabricated lie and said, no, this man is not from Qahtan. He's not from the tribe of Qahtan. He only calls himself Qahtani because he's settled in the area of Qahtan. But he's actually from the Quraysh. So many people started following this talk of Mahdawiyah, that he is the Mahdi. But some of the others, the founders, they left this. They said, now you've become too much. Amongst them, a man called Nasir al-Huzaymi, he left the group. Amongst them, Ahmed al-Muallimi al-Yamani, he left the group. Faisal al-Yami, this man who was also Islamic University in Medina, he didn't believe in this, but he's continued following the thoughts of Juhayman al-otabee. So this fitnah spread, ikhwani fillah, until it came one of the darkest days of our histories, the fast of Muharram, the year 1400, New Year, if there's anything like New Year, of the year 1400 of the Hijri calendar. The year 1979, November 20th, Salat al-Fajr. Shaykh, I think it was Shaykh Muhammad al-Khayyat, he was the Imam of Makkah. So they prayed Salat al-Fajr. After they finished Salat al-Fajr, if you have gone to Makkah, you know, as-salatu ala al-amwat, as-salatu ala al-mayyit. There's this janazah prayers after the Fajr prayer. So these young men, they are carrying things that are pretending that they are carrying janazas into the mosque of Makkah. And they had also prepared beforehand. They had hidden a lot of weapons in the basement of Makkah. Hidden a lot of weapons, a lot of food. They were prepared for war. They were prepared for a siege. Fitnah. So Salat al-Fajr has ended. Shaykh says, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum. They're waiting for janazah. These young men, they come, they grab the microphone. And they say, حدثنا فلان عن فلان عن فلان عن فلان قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And they start mentioning the hadiths related to the Mahdi with the entire chain of narration. All the hadiths, they start mentioning with the microphone. It's also on YouTube. It's recorded what they were saying. Then they say that the Mahdi has appeared. And this is the Mahdi. Come give him the pledge of allegiance. He is the one to save this ummah. Muhammad ibn Abdullah. We have seen him in a dream that he is the one to save this ummah. Ignorance, Jahiliyyah, we do not know what to call it. And they locked the gates of Makkah. And some of the masakin, the Hujjaj, because Dhul Hijjah was just Hajj was just a few days, a few weeks behind that. They started saying that this is the Mahdi, they were giving him masakin, they didn't know the truth. So ikhwan fillah, for a period of 2 weeks, started a great war, a great fitna in Makkah. This young men, they are fighting with the special forces of Saudi army. And many people, many Muslims lost their lives. For over 2-3 weeks, there was no salah, there was no fard prayer being prayed under one imam in the mosque in Makkah. November 20th, 1979, one of the greatest fitnas in our history, in our times, occurred in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the purest places of this dunya, in the most sacred place in this dunya. People spilled blood. And this fitna continued for 2 weeks. On the 3rd day, this man who was mentioned to be the Mahdi, Muhammad Abdullah al-Qahtani, was killed. On the 3rd day, day 3. But Juhayman hid the death of this man. And they continued fighting. But some of the people, when it became spread that this man has already died, they threw their weapons and they surrendered to the government of Saudi, who were helped by some armies from outside. We don't know the facts, we don't know the complete facts. And these young men, many of them lost their lives, and many of them were arrested. Then they were interrogated. They were asked, why did you guys do such a crime? Why did you guys do such an act in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the most sacred of places. This is a place, ikhwani fillah, you as a Muslim, you're not even allowed to hunt when you're in haram. An animal passes, you see an antelope, you can't just go shoot the antelope, it's in haram. It's protected, even the animals are protected. The trees, you can't come and cut a tree from Makkah. You can't, it's protected area. Trees are protected, animals are protected. Then you guys come and you spill blood of Muslims, which is one of the greatest of sins. But you're spilling blood of Muslims. On top of that, you're spilling it in Makkah. So they were told, said, what do we do about it? We read the signs of the Day of Judgment, and we thought we were the ones mentioned in these hadiths. We were very sure that we were mentioned in this hadith. And from the hadiths we read from the signs of the Day of Judgment is the dream of a believer is a true dream. And we saw in a dream that we, amongst us, is the Mahdi. So we were very sure that this man who is with us is the Mahdi. Khani fillah. Look how ignorance can take you into such an evil place. Yes, we mentioned all those signs. But you, to be certain to that extent that you're ready to spill the blood of your fellow Muslim because of such thoughts, such afkar. Khani fillah, they were arrested. Amongst them, Juhayman Al-otabee, the leader. He was arrested. Look at YouTube, you'll find his video. Look at online, you'll find his video. They were like charcoal. You can't even tell they're Arabs. Completely dark because of all the smoke and all the fighting that went on for days. You can't recognize them. Then in 1980, 63 of them were executed by the government, and a few of them, they were kept in jail for a long time and finally released. Ikhwani fillah. So ikhwani fillah, this was a great fitna that occurred in the year 1400 of the Hijri calendar, the 1st of Muharram. What are some of the lessons? Sorry, I summarized many things, but you can get more details online. What are some of the lessons we learn from such an unfortunate event, such a fitna? Number one, ikhwani fillah, whenever you hear something, some people calling, just don't rush into everything. The scholars, they say, "Man ta'ajjala qabla al-awan, uqiba bil-hirman." Whoever rushes to something shall be denied it. So you, as a Muslim, always be slow. Always take things slowly. Understand. Don't rush just because you're told, come, we save our Muslim brothers. Come, the Mahdi has come. You rush into something and you have not studied all the facts around it. So that's the first lesson we learn. The second lesson we learn, the importance of being with the scholars. إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. Verily the ones who are most fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the servants of Allah are the scholars. Never ever leave the scholars. Yes, one scholar can make a mistake. Two scholars can make a mistake. But you go ask 10 scholars, 20 scholars, 30 scholars. Do you expect all those 30 scholars to guide you to the wrong way? Always, ikhwani fillah, be close to the ulama, the people who are known for their righteousness, the people who are known for their true knowledge, the people who have studied this religion for years and years, and they have taken it from from scholars, who have taken it from scholars, who took it from the companions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who took from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam, who took from Jibril, who took from Allah. That is the chain of narration of knowledge. This is how knowledge comes. It is isnad, al-ilm, al-isnad. Number 3, ikhwani fillah, if you're coming to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment, not if, you're definitely going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment. Make sure, ikhwani fillah, that you do not meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with anyone's blood. Keep away from the issue of blood, more particular than anything else. Property, honor, all those things, yes, keep away from them. But more particularly blood. Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam says, لا يزال المؤمن في فسحة من دينه ما لم يصب دما حراما. The person will still have leeway with regards to his faith as long as he has not spilt blood. And the very first thing you're going to be asked on the Day of Judgment regarding the rights of your fellow Muslim, your fellow human being, not even Muslim, your fellow human being, is regarding blood. Regarding blood. So, ikhwani fillah, keep away from the issues of blood. I don't know if I have any more lessons, ikhwani fillah. also keep away from fitnah. Whenever you hear there's a fitnah, and this is something that we have seen in our own lives, it is best to go to your houses and keep to your house. Best to lock yourselves in your houses, but do not participate in anything where the Muslims are in conflict. Keep away from it. Don't choose sides. Yes, of course, there's one side that is correct, and there's one side that's wrong. For example, Ali ibn Abi Talib, radiallahu anhu, and Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, it was very clear Ali was on the correct. But look at someone like Abdullah ibn Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu anhuma. He went silent, and he forbade any of the Muslims to participate from the fitnah. This man was very intelligent, although he's one of the young Sahabas, he kept away from the fitnah. Al-Hasan ibn Ali, the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, he told his father, keep away from this thing, my dad. Dad, keep away from these things. You're going to do things are going to happen that you're going to regret. It happened that Talha ibn Ubaidillah lost his life, radiallahu anhu. Zubair ibn Awam, he lost his life in the battle of Siffin, in the battle of Jamal. The great Sahabas lost their lives because people set out not to reconcile. People set out to be participants in a fitnah. So, Ikhwani fillah, always keep away from fitnah. So, Ikhwani fillah, inshallah, we'll continue after Isha with another great fitnah that occurred in Makkah, also in the 4th century. A great fitnah where an ibadah that was done for a very long time, even before Islam, was not able to be done. The ibadah of kissing the Hajar al-Aswad. What happened in the year 317 or so of the Hijri calendar, that Muslims were not able to do this ibadah of kissing Hajar al-Aswad, and this is one of the greatest fitnah also to occur in Makkah. This is what we shall look at in our forthcoming lecture after Isha. Wallahu alam, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.